African masks, African customs, and abstract collage. Africa's traditional arts, like its beliefs, are concerned mainly with the spiritual content. Masks are created to be dwelling places for spirits. African masks represent gods, ancestors of great wisdom, or monsters familiar in the myths and beliefs of each tribe. The mask is meant to change the wearer into another being who possesses supernatural abilities. Masks are created to be worn in tribal religious ceremonies and ritual dances, and are a way of connecting with the supernatural world for various reasons. To ensure health, mark territories, burials, administer justice, teach laws and traditions. What is an abstract collage? An abstract collage is a work of art which uses simplified or symbolic forms and materials such as paper, cloth, or found objects that are glued to a support. The subject matter may be recognizable or may be completely transformed into shapes, colors, or lines. These are the materials that we shall be using to create our art project. We are using mixed media. Draw your African mask on your white paper. Draw it in pencil first and then trace over it with a permanent black marker. Refer to the mask template or design your own African mask. Choose areas of your mask where you wish to apply tissue paper. Just like tracing paper, lay the tissue paper over the drawing and trace the shape, then cut the shape out. Lay down the tissue paper shape to fill in the area on the mask. Then carefully, using the watered down Elmer's glue, brush over the tissue paper. You can use your paintbrush to lightly flatten. After you've applied all your tissue paper to the sections on your mask, you are then to use permanent markers to fill in the rest of the areas with bright, vivid colors. Upon completion of colouring in your African mask, we are going to use spray paints, and you're going to begin with the very palest colour and spray around the area of the mask. Please do not spray on your mask.
Boys and girls, I'm going to demonstrate to you how you can make your own African mask. And here's an example of one that I'd done earlier. Now I'm just going to set that to the side, and I'm going to take you through the procedural steps as to how to create your own African mask. Now first you're going to require a sheet of plain white paper, and you're also going to receive a template that gives you ideas for African masks. Again, this is just a guide. You do not have to follow it to the exact detail. You can add your own details to it too, which I would prefer that you did rather than copy it completely. So I'm just going to set that to the side there, and you do this in pencil first, and then you're going to trace over it in Sharpie. So I'm going to just demonstrate. I'm going to draw myself a mask. I'll do it directly in Sharpie so that you can see. You will also have visuals up to see real African masks so that you can see exactly what they look like and the types of details, and you can use that as reference as well. Now, making my design rather bold, and I'm going to show you and explain to you why I'm doing it very bold. I'm going to continue to do my mask. There. And you see I've already added some bold details, some repeating patterns. There we go. Until I get it complete and completely drawn in with Sharpies. And there's another one that I did earlier. Now, what we're going to use now is pieces of tissue paper, and we're going to take sections and we're going to layer tissue paper to start our process. Now, this is one that I started, and I want you to see how I do this. You're going to get different shapes and colours of tissue paper on your table, and I want you to use the tissue paper to not waste it. Don't just set the tissue paper in the centre and cut out a big piece. I want you to use it, you know, from the edges. What you can see here is I'm layering it over, so it's like a tracing paper. And I'm going to use my Sharpie. You can use a Sharpie too, because a pencil might just tear into it. And I'm going to trace over one of these sections, one of these bold sections that I did. Now you can see there that I've drawn this area and traced it onto the tissue paper. I'm going to get my scissors, and very carefully I'm going to cut that out. Now the lines that I've traced over are the lines that I'm going to cut out, so be very precise as to how you cut it. Okay, take your time. Okay, now I'm going to set that on there. And what I'm going to get is a fan brush and some watered down Elmer's glue. Just dip it in very lightly, not a lot. And using my finger, I'm just holding it in place. I'm going to brush it on. Where we've done this in the past, where we've glued the paper and then set the tissue paper on, we're doing this a different way. We're actually setting the paper on first without the glue on it, and then brushing the glue on top of the tissue paper, because I find that if I paint the paper with the glue first and then try and lay the tissue paper on, I get it all crunched up and it doesn't go on smoothly for me. So this is a lot easier for me to do. When I am satisfied that I have got all my areas that I wish to have covered in tissue paper, I'm then going to get permanent Sharpie markers, and I'm going to get an array of vivid colours. And then in each section I'm going to continue and to colour in until my whole mask is filled, so that there's no white showing. The only white that's going to be remaining is the white around my mask, but we're still going to apply an additional medium to it. So we're actually doing a mixed media project. We're using pencil, Sharpie, tissue paper. We're collaging the tissue paper onto the mask in certain sections, and then we're actually going to be using a little bit of spray paint as well. So you can see here what I'm doing. I'm actually taking each section and I'm using permanent markers. Okay, so we've got a great array of permanent markers for us to use for this project. And that's one of the reasons why I said earlier is that we want a bold design, so that we can cut out those tissue paper shapes and then collage those on. Because if we have our design and it's too minimalistic and too small, it's going to be very difficult. If you take an example of this mask here, you can see how bold it is, the shapes, the eyes, the nostrils and the nose, the very large lips, and then we've got some extra detail here, and then the beautiful necklace that goes around here, and a little bit of a head dress as well with a pattern on it. So it's very striking. When I have that completely filled in with Sharpie markers and it's all permanent, you will then receive some spray bottles of paint. Very light mixture of paint, and I don't want you to spray your mask, but you can see here by the final example that I've got here is that you're going to just spray around the outer edge. You're going to get yellow initially, and then some orangey red and possibly some blue. It all depends on how heavy we want to go, but I don't want you spraying your mask. We don't want to lose this bold design, but we do want to just fill in the very back of it, so it adds that sort of like final dimension to it. So there we go, boys and girls. First we need to draw our mask in pencil, then in Sharpie, and then we're going to take certain sections and tissue paper. This one has tissue paper here and here, here and here, and in the navy blue areas here is tissue paper. The rest of it is all been done in permanent markers, and when we have all that done, Then we're going to just add an extra element using spray paint just around the exterior. And there you go, boys and girls. Now it's your turn. Let's go make some art.